to every NG, where we give you all the updates and everything you need to know that is happening around you in Nigeria and also outside Nigeria. Now we give you everything from entertainment to sports to reality TV, after reality TV live, and the whole 9 yards. My name is Judith, and like I mentioned earlier, this video is brought to you by every NG. And today we are going to be discussing the BBNaija Lockdown highlights. Now we'll be following through with the highlights since Biggie decided to drop something for us this month, and we are finally in day 52. Now let me tell you about day 52 because it was a really hilarious day for the housemates. Now obviously the house is smaller, it's a bit scanty. Lucy just left, so we have very few housemates left, and then they decided to just keep themselves busy and they decided to have a rap battle. Now, obviously, we know the rappers in the house. We know the people who are very good in this rap game. We know that Likon is good. And surprisingly, V is also good with the, words and rhymes and all whatnot. So, they started the rap battle, right? So, it was Kidwaya and Likon. Of course, Likon took it easy on Kidwaya because he's a learner. And then we had V and Neo. And that was when everywhere scattered. So, obviously, Neo doesn't know jack about rapping. He was just doing his best, saying whatever rubbish came to his head. And then V decided to fire him. She said that he looks like broomstick, called him low budget. Hey God. I can't tell you all the details of what happened, but the housemates were surely having a good time. They were laughing. Police was on the floor literally because it was so funny how they were just stroking themselves and lashing themselves with the rap battle. But yeah, that was a really fun morning for them. Now, after that, Ozo decided to talk to one of his best friends in the house, at least in the house, like I said, Dora. He was talking about the whole Nengi situation. And I got a whiff of people being tired of discussing Nengi with Ozo because today he's discussing with Neil, tomorrow he's discussing with this person, next tomorrow is that person. So Dora decided to give him a listening ear and he was talking. And he's like, I moved out. Let me bust your head. Ozo moved out of his room to Nengi's room so he could be closer to her. I mean, just Ozo doing what Ozo does. So yeah, he moved out of his room. He was talking to Dora, and Dora is just like, okay, well, if the girl is not giving you face, then keep your distance, which is what every other person had been saying. Like, keep your distance. He's like, well, but I moved out of my room to get closer to her. She does not want now. Keep your distance. And then you could even see like Dora's face was just like, bro, what is happening? Like, what exactly is going on? You could just see that Dora was just like, somebody hold me. She was looking at him like, I'm giving you advice here and you're not taking it. But anyway, he spoke about it, and then he said that Nengi was giving him mixed vibes. Like today she's acting interested, tomorrow she's giving him distance. So he's not really sure what is going on. Even times that he would suggest that they shout together, she was always, airing him in quotes. I'm just like, sorry about that, bro. Sorry about that. So the housemates had a task. Their wager for that week was to recreate a 1-minute clip of one of the series that was being aired on one of the sponsors' platforms, right? And they were rehearsing for that. Now, after we moved on from the Ozo Dora part, went into the rehearsals. Dora, Kidwaya, and Prince were supposed to act out Power, and then we had V, Lakon, and Tricky in one group doing Game of Thrones, while we also had Ozo, Nengi, and Neo in another group, and they were play suits. So yeah, that was how the groups were shared, and they went to rehearsing. Now after rehearsing, Lakon and Neo had a conversation, and this one was really. The conversation was very funny because they were eating bread. Usually, you and your guy eating, just talking about random stuff. And next thing, Neo brings up the fact that he wants to be intimate with V in the house, but he doesn't know how to approach her with that. And Lekon is like, what did she tell you the last time we had this conversation? And, Lekon was like, look, she told you that she doesn't want to do this in the house, so let her be. Like, there's no need pushing it. Like, even if she changes her mind, let it come from her, which is pretty solid advice, to be honest. So, Neo was just like, okay, cool, whatever. We moved on from that conversation, and the whole house gathered in front of the dining to get their new task. So they had a task for the day, and it was from the digital assets company. And the group selection was so funny. Like when they were selecting their groups, so many people that didn't want to be in groups with other people ended up being in those groups, and they were just like in their minds, you could tell that nah, I'm not really happy with this group, but we move sharp. So after selecting their group members, they went practicing, and then during the practice, Ozo decided to engage Nengi in a conversation. Now he was talking to her, and Nengi was complaining so much about how clingy he was. Like she's like, Also, give me space. I feel like every time I'm talking to you, we're always talking about relation. Like there are other things to discuss in this house. And then also was trying to make his case. It's like, well, we discuss other stuff too. Maybe because you're not interested in talking about the relationship part. That's why it feels like we're always having this conversation. But I don't know, after everything that happened in the morning, because remember that Ozo spoke to Dora, the advice and everything, it was just a whole lot that Ozo was still pursuing this situation even after all the advice he has gotten from like his friends and stuff. Oh well, it is what it is. We're past that stage, thankfully. So yeah, after that, they went for their task presentation. So it was really funny because they had like a customer care representative task where people were supposed to act as customer care reps and ask questions, just basically highlight the focal points of the brand. And then after that, they now acted the whole drama, and it was really funny, especially Dora's group. Dora is a hilarious actress, I tell you. So yeah, they finished with their presentation, and they now moved back into the house to just chill, eat, and all whatnot. And then that was where V and Nengi fought. That fight was really, really funny. Let me explain it to you because it seemed like a joke, but not quite. You know all those jokes that like I'm joking with you, but deep down you're like, no, there's an element of truth in this joke. Like you're actually serious. You're just masking it with jokes and all whatnot. So how it happened was they were in the wardrobe session, the closet session, and V said something to Nengi and also like, oh, you're practicing with next thing now you go and in one corner with Nengi and be discussing something to be practicing with your group, right? So and it was pertaining to the Patricia task because stuff happened during the presentation, and Neki moved away from that place. She just moved like whatever, and then she went into the kitchen, and Neo followed her because he could tell that her mood changed. And then when Neo asked her like, okay, what's going on? She's like, why is she talking like that? Like obviously she meant it. Neo was like, oh, she's joking. Neki was like, no, she meant it. And next thing you know, V came in and they were not talking. V was like, I'm being sarcastic. If you can't understand sarcasm, that's not my business. I say, hey, problem. And funny how now outside the house they're like really tight. But then when they were having that issue, and it carried on for some days, when they were having that issue, people just assumed that outside the house, these people just separate. There's nothing joining both of them together again. But surprise, they're actually really close. So after that squabble, they didn't really talk much about it, and they were not even talking to themselves. Sometimes people will fight and be like, I beg, let's bone it and continue with our lives. And other times they're just like, I'm not talking to you, you're not talking to me until somebody apologizes. So yeah, that was the kind of situation they were having. Now after that, the housemates just went on their daily activities, doing whatever. And then in the evening, they started talking about eviction. So it was Nengi, Neo, Kidwire, and Lekon. They were just chilling, by the garden side, and then they were just talking about how they felt like Lucy was such a strong contender, like they were not expecting her to go. So like while they're in the house, they can't really tell what's going on outside. Some people who feel like they are really strong, just end up leaving earlier than they expect. So while other people that are kind of underdogs make it to the end, as we saw in the last season. So yeah, that was how we ended day 52. But that thing about feeling like you're really strong, like yes, I'm going to make it, I'm going to win, or at least top 3. Pin that, because that was exactly how we started day 53. So yes, we moved on from day 52 to 53. Now, starting day 53, Kidwaya and Lakon were discussing, and Kidwaya was so confident that he was going to make it to the end. He's like, look, when I go out there, I'm going to tell people that I made it to the end. I'm like, you're leaving this week? But yeah, he was so confident that he was going to make it to the end, and he was just talking about how outside holds so much for them, especially now that they're like the final, the last group, and he was basically saying that the other people that left earlier on, because remember they were discussing how they did not expect some people to leave when they left. Now Kid was saying that the other people that left earlier on were like the fat, that they were just trimming the fat. I'm like, sorry I'll for be fat though. So yeah, he said that, and while he was discussing with Lekon was just saying, look, I'm just going to concentrate on my life. I'm not going to focus on anything that's happening outside. But deep down, that you're bothered. That you come up for eviction, you have to just be busy. That kind of thing. But yeah, so after that conversation, they decided to talk to V, because the thing between V and Nengi was, it was looking like a serious issue. So Lekon asked V, like, okay, what is going on? And that was when V now brought the cocoa. When So whatever happened that caused the actual fight wasn't the origin of the fight. So according to V, Nengi used something that belonged to her. She didn't mention what it was. She just said my stuff, and Nengi used it, broke it, and was kind of unapologetic about it. Although she offered to replace it, she felt like V felt like, why would you take my property without my permission and break it? Like, you were not supposed to break it in the first place. It's not about you replacing it. It's about the fact that you took my stuff without permission, you broke it, and then you're just saying that, oh, I'll replace it, like everything is okay. You know, that kind of thing. So that was when I now began to understand exactly like where the anger was coming from. So you know, when Nengi was saying that V wasn't joking, like it sounded like she was serious. She was actually right, because V was upset about something already. So going to make the sarcastic comment wasn't exactly a joke. But yeah, anyway, we moved back to the closet area. Ozo is dressing up with Neo, and Neo decides to give advice. Do you know what funny thing about these housemates? All of them are in the same situation somehow, but they always like, you're in your own wahala. This person is having their own issues, that person having their own issues, but we are just exchanging advice and not taking our advice for something, for some reason. Like, we are giving advice, but we're not taking it because we're still finding ourselves in the same situation that we're asking advice for. So, you know, Neo decided to talk to us. So I was like, look, guy, you're a spec. Men like you don't come easy, you know. Just gassing Ozo up, saying that if she doesn't want you, pack your load and go. It's not by force. There are so many other women out there that would appreciate you. Like, he was just giving Ozo like some sort of advice, just gassing him up and saying you're a great guy. And Ozo was like, oh yeah. I'm like, you stay here from now to tomorrow, you still go and follow Nengi next tomorrow. That was not the point. So after that session, you know, they went back to rehearsing for their task, the one that they were supposed to play roles, movie roles and all whatnot. And then I noticed that there was some sort of friction in V's group. Now, V is in the group with Tricky T and Lekon, and they were supposed to play Game of Thrones. So I noticed some level of friction in their group, but I couldn't put my finger on it just yet until V decided to talk to her man about it. Now, she was talking to Neo, and Neo noticed that she was in a mood, and he was like, oh, babe, what's going on? You know, while he was preparing for his own, because he was in another group, right? But being the loving man that he is, he decided to find out how his girl is doing. So he asked her, and then she felt like she was being sidelined in her group. You know, she was like, I don't understand why Tricky T and Lekon is pissing me off. I don't understand why they're acting like this. So she complained of some sexist comments that were going here and there in her group. And she said that sometimes she would like bring up, you know, suggestions or try to make them see reason why they shouldn't do certain things certain ways. And they would just, you know, just write her off as being emotional. And she felt like it was very wrong. Like, she can actually bring meaningful input. You cannot tell me that because I'm saying something you don't agree with, I'm being emotional. And then she wasn't having it. And she even particularly said that she was disappointed in Lekon because he is supposed to be her friend and he was just acting all sorts of ways. So yeah, she complained about that. And Neo being the man that he is, like, oh babe, sorry. I'm like, better than focus on your group. What are you doing here? So yeah, he kind of consoled her and told her to just shine like the star that she is. You know, this motivational speaker stuff now. That was what he did. So yeah, after that, you know, they went to presenting their task. And you cannot believe what we did. See, just be careful of the people that you hold close to you because they will stab you. They will stab you when you least expect it. So yeah, on a lighter note though, V went to the presentation room. Everybody went there. So they were supposed to judge themselves since they were not having any external judges. So if V's group is presenting, say Neo's group would judge. If Neo's group is presenting, you know, another group would judge. That was how they were doing it. So V was supposed to judge Neo's group, and Neo's group had Nengi and Ozo as well. So I don't know if it was carryover anger from what Nengi did or she was genuinely not happy with their presentation because she bashed their group. She only complimented Harvey Specter, and Harvey Specter was Neo. So obviously, like, she bashed their group. She was like, she wasn't really feeling it, was just somehow. And after the presentation, like, Nengi was really upset about it. She was like, what's that supposed to mean? Like, why would you go and bash somebody that you care? Like, you're saying that, oh, this person is your boyfriend and he's in this group and you're tearing him down in front of the whole world. Nengi was really upset that her group was attacked like that. And also, of course, supporting Nengi as usual. He was like, yeah, that's not cool. And I was like, hello, she did what she did. So eat yourself on us tomorrow. It has happened. But yeah, so they went back to the task. They actually did a really good job. And the thing was, for this task, they were supposed to incorporate their Nigerianness into the task. So here's what I mean. Like, if you're presenting Game of Thrones, obviously it's not a Nigerian show. You're supposed to make it as Nigerian as possible. So they had to switch names. Like, instead of Joffrey, Lekon was bearing Jola. I'm just like, Jola, Joffrey. So yeah, Lagos was bearing Jola, they were just giving themselves Nigerian names. And then even in suits, instead of Harvey Specter and stuff, it was now Harvey Akpofuri. And just like, nope, that's not right. What's this? So yeah, that was what they did with that task. But all the groups did a very good job. And of course, Lakon's team won the prize for the night. So yeah, that was how we ended day 53 in the house. Like I mentioned earlier, the house is getting scanty. So people are just doing their own thing. There's not much to be done apart from their tasks and conversations here and there. So yeah, as we progress, we'll definitely give you more updates on the lockdown highlights. But until next time, thank you so much for joining this video. My name is Judith, and this is brought to you by Every NG. Bye.